Welcome back to Stream Press, the podcast where we dive deep into the currents of modern life and explore how to navigate them with intention. I'm Irakli Gagwa, and as always, I'm thrilled to be joined by my knowledgeable friend, Luca.
Hey, everyone. I am excited to be here.
Luca, have you ever stopped to consider just how many decisions we make in a single day? Studies suggest it's over 35,000, and the staggering part is that most of them are happening on autopilot. Today, we're going to unpack these unconscious choices, and more importantly, how to take back control. We'll be exploring the critical decisions we make in every moment, what to focus on, what meaning to assign, and what actions to take, and how to consciously shape our experiences. Let's dive in.
That's such a striking number, and it really makes you think about how many of those decisions we're making on autopilot, especially with all the digital distractions we face now.
You know, I conducted an interesting experiment this morning. I tracked every notification I received in the first hour after waking up, and the results were pretty alarming. 47 different interruptions trying to capture my attention.
Oh, wow, that reminds me of a recent study I read about how it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully refocus after each interruption. No wonder we're all feeling so scattered.
Exactly. And here's what's really fascinating. We're making three critical decisions in every moment that fundamentally shape our experience, whether we're aware of it or not. The first is what we choose to focus on.
Could you break that down a bit more? How does that choice actually play out in real life?
Well, imagine you're giving a presentation and someone in the audience looks bored. You could focus on that one person and spiral into self-doubt, or you could direct your attention to the engaged listeners and maintain your confidence. Same situation, a completely different experience based on where you put your focus.
That's so true. I've definitely fallen into that trap before. But isn't it really hard to control where your mind goes in those moments?
That leads perfectly into the second critical decision, what meaning we assign to events. Research shows that high performers consistently interpret challenges as opportunities for growth rather than threats. It's not about the event itself, but the story we tell ourselves about it.
That reminds me of a fascinating study where they found that students who viewed stress as performance enhancing actually performed 30% better on tests than those who saw it as debilitating.
Exactly. And this brings us to the third decision, what actions we take. According to neuroscience research, taking even a small positive action can trigger a cascade of beneficial neurochemical changes in the brain.
That's really interesting about the neurochemical changes. How long does it take for those effects to kick in?
Studies show it can happen almost instantly. Within seconds of making a decisive action, your brain releases dopamine and norepinephrine, which help reduce anxiety and increase focus. But here's the catch. Most people never realize they're making these choices at all.
Well, that explains why so many of us feel stuck in reactive patterns. We're not even aware we have these options available to us.
Right? And this is where the concept of mental resilience becomes crucial. Think of it like building muscle. You can't just read about weightlifting and expect to get stronger. You have to actively engage in the practice.
That makes sense, but how do we actually build that mental resilience in practical terms?
Research shows three key practices make the biggest difference. First, intentional focus training, spending just 10 minutes a day practicing directed attention. Second, regular pattern interruption, consciously breaking automatic responses. And third, what psychologists call implementation intentions, planning specific responses to challenging situations in advance.
Those sound like really practical strategies. I've noticed that even small changes in how I approach challenges can have surprisingly big effects.
Absolutely. And the data backs that up. Studies show that people who consciously practice these skills report a 40% reduction in stress levels and a 35% improvement in decision-making confidence within just 8 weeks.
Those are impressive numbers. It really shows how much power we have to shape our experience when we make these choices consciously.
And here's what's particularly fascinating. This isn't This isn't just about individual well-being. Research from organizational psychology shows that teams led by people who practice conscious decision-making are 23% more productive and report 31% higher job satisfaction.
That makes so much sense. Our individual choices create ripple effects that impact everyone around us.
Looking at the bigger picture, we're living in an age where the average person is exposed to more information in a day than someone in the 15th century encountered in their entire lifetime. Our ability to make conscious choices about what we let in and how we respond has never been more critical.
Well, this conversation has definitely made me think differently about all those notifications on my phone. I'm starting to see them as choice points rather than demands for attention.
That's exactly the kind of perspective shift we're talking about. Remember, every moment presents these three choices: what to focus on, what meaning to assign, and what action to take. The power lies in becoming aware of these choice points and engaging with them consciously.
I think I'm going to start with something simple. Like you said, even small actions can trigger those positive neurochemical changes.
That's the perfect approach. After all, research shows that trying to change everything at once typically leads to a 92% failure rate, while focusing on one small change at a time has an 80% success rate. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Well, Luca, this has been an incredibly enlightening conversation. I think we've both walked away with a renewed understanding of the power we hold in each moment.
Absolutely, Irakli. The idea that we can consciously choose our focus, meaning, and actions is truly empowering. It's not about being perfect, but about being present and intentional.
Exactly. And to our listeners, remember that every notification, every interaction, every moment is a choice point. Start small. Focus on one intentional change at a time, whether it's practicing directed attention for 10 minutes or consciously interrupting an automatic response.
And remember, even those small actions can trigger powerful neurochemical changes. It's about building that mental resilience, like strengthening a muscle, one rep at a time.
Thank you, Luca, for sharing your insights. And thank you, listeners, for joining us on StreamPress. We hope this conversation has inspired you to take a more conscious approach to your daily decisions.
Until next time, stay mindful.
You can find us on the StreamPress podcast platform, visit the StreamPress website, and follow us on social media. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.